Yeah, what's up, YouTube? Back at it again with another banger. Sorry, my voice is messed up. Still a little sick. We are going to be reacting to
So today I was streaming, and a couple of the things that you get when you're a
Naruto's
streamer
worst
are
opinions
unsolicited
debunked. I
advice
love this
and
guy too.
horrible opinions. And today I was proposed with quite literally one of the worst opinions I've ever heard. Somebody came into my chat and told me that Kiba in Boruto would beat Tobirama in a fight, which is
What?
asinine, but we're not even gonna talk about that. But the opinion was so bad that it got my brain thinking. And as somebody who's been a streamer for over 2 years and has been talking about Naruto for even longer, I've come face to face with a lot of maybe the worst opinions about Naruto. More specifically, opinions about events or characters within Naruto. So I figured I would compile a list of all of the worst opinions in Naruto and tell you why they're so bad. So with no further ado, let's get into Naruto opinions you shouldn't have and why. Before we get into anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Before we get into all that, guys, today I want to talk about a brand new sponsor to the page, Into the AM. Into the AM is an online clothing store with a bunch of really awesome clothes. See, Into the link in my pinned comment and description for 10% off your order. So what are you guys waiting for? Pop on over to Into the beauty of free human choice. However, that doesn't mean that some opinions are less researched and more ignorant than other ones. And by and large, those are the opinions we're going to be talking about today. Like, you're allowed to feel that Kiba could beat Tobirama in a fight. And since they will almost definitely never fight, there's no definitive way for me to tell you that Tobirama would beat Kiba in a fight. And thus, having that opinion isn't wrong, it's just underinformed. And the situation is exactly the same for the first opinion we're going to be talking about today. Sakura is useless.
Yeah, I hate that.
Very common theory.
That is a dumb theory. Sakura is literally one of the most useful characters in the series.
Slash feeling in the Naruto community. The jokes about Sakura being the pink trash can or the summoner of Naruto goes on and on and on. And while you can disagree with how Sakura's story plays out within the confines of Naruto, calling her useless is just factually incorrect. So a lot of the hate for Sakura is garnered in the first part of Naruto, because she was thrown onto Team 7 with the genius of the Uchiha clan, the wielder of the Demon Fox, and Kakashi of 1,000 jutsus. You see, Sakura from day one of Naruto kind of had the cards stacked against her.
Yeah.
She's simply a ninja from parents who aren't even ninja. She has no bloodline, Keke Genkai, or tailed beasts inside of her. She is simply a person trying to become a shinobi, and therefore Naruto proper when Sasuke had things like the curse mark and the Sharingan to lean onto. And anytime Naruto got in a bad situation, he can have Kurama's chakra take over. And Kakashi was not only a high-level Jonin, he also had a Mangekyo Sharingan. Sakura had no power-ups, and yet she still attempted to be useful. Like during the Chunin exams when she tried to...
She did have the best chakra control out of Naruto and Sasuke when she was younger, though, if you guys didn't know that.
Sasuke after he passed out after receiving the curse mark. And you can say, yeah, well, she got her ass kicked in that fight, but she was also fighting hidden sound shinobi. Yeah. And these weren't kids trying to actually become Genin. These were kids placed there by Orochimaru to help in the crush of Konoha. And therefore, these kids were significantly above Genin level. And once again, I will remind you, Sakura was just a person, but in that moment she showed an outstanding amount of bravery. But Sakura's true impact can be more felt outside of the confines of OG Naruto. Sakura's genjutsu resistance in Naruto the Last is basically the only reason Naruto was able to travel to the moon in order to save Hinata. Sakura not only dodged a light speed attack from Kaguya, she also managed to land a blow on Kaguya that put Kaguya in position to be sealed. She was able to learn the strength of 100 seal and mitotic regeneration that gives her durability probably higher than anybody else in the verse. She has brought Sasuke back from the brink of death after incurring fatal wounds 3 separate times. During the time travel arc in Boruto, Sakura saves Sasuke's life. She also saves him after Sasuke has his ass kicked by Jigen. She saved both Naruto and Sasuke from bleeding out after their battle. Oh, and then she also saved him from Shin. Sorry, it was Naruto who was unconscious in the Chunin exams. I always get that mixed up. But speaking of Naruto, Sakura has also saved Naruto probably more times than she saved Sasuke. Let's not forget in the war arc, she quite literally cut into Naruto's chest and hand pumped his heart until Obito was able to put Kurama back into Naruto. And that's not even to mention light novel feats. In Sasuke Retsunan, the light novel that's currently getting manga-fied, drawn would be a good word, Sakura is solely responsible for saving Sasuke's life. Sasuke
literally.
is poisoned by a dragon and is about to die when Sakura saves him. So, no Sakura, no Sasuke, or Naruto.
And we failed to forget that Sakura, it took her 3 days to get the antidote for Kagura that got poisoned by Sasori, who's known as one of the best when it comes to poison.
characters of the story, so if you don't want them around, well then, I guess you can say Sakura is useless. While we're talking about Sakura, we should talk about her mentor. You see, another very prevalent opinion within the Naruto fandom is that Tsunade is the worst Hokage. And I recently did a video ranking every single one of the Hokages in terms of their usefulness. And in that video, I tried to make it a point that every single Hokage has had a meaningful impact on Konoha. But to say that Tsunade's impact is the least impactful is once again just factually inaccurate. The only thing that people focus on when they talk about Tsunade's role as a Hokage is the fact that she sent Jiraiya to the hidden...
Which Hokage is the weakest? That's a good question. Honestly, I'd have to say Kakashi, just mainly for the fact that he got nerfed. Don't get me wrong, Double Mangekyo Sharingan Kakashi as a Hokage would have been crazy. But we don't have that. He got nerfed.
Reign by himself. Something, mind you, he asked to do, and also arguably the right choice. And since they're so focused solely on this Jiraiya bit, they ignore the fact that without Tsunade, Choji would have died from the pills.
Rock Lee would have never became a ninja again.
The Leaf would have been destroyed long before Naruto got back to fight Nagato. Considering the fact that Tsunade and Lady Katsuya were basically holding the line against Naruto until Naruto showed up. And in the aftermath of the pain attack, even though people got their souls back, that doesn't mean their bodies were fixed. Lady Katsuya and Tsunade were responsible basically for healing the entirety of Konoha back to health. Something Lady Tsunade, and basically only Lady Tsunade outside of Sakura.
A fun fact too, anytime Sakura or Tsunade summons her slug, it's only 70%. It's never 100%.
Could pull off, and Sakura at that moment could not have pulled that off. And then during the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, Tsunade was solely responsible for making sure all 5 Kages weren't killed by Madara. So if you feel like, oh, I don't know, Gaara or Inoki or the Fourth Raikage A had any meaningful impact in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, you should probably thank Tsunade. Gaara especially was instrumental for sealing away Edo Tensei ninjas. No Tsunade, no Gaara's Fuinjutsu that basically swung the tide of the war.
Gaara was a key character too. Like he was doing like everything. He literally brought the allied Shinobi Nation together. That's what's really crazy. My bad.
Wouldn't have mattered if all of the ninja that Gaara and the rest of the
really mattered.
ninjas sealed away had more time to...
Because here's the thing about Edo Tensei. It doesn't matter if the Jutsu caster is destroyed or anything. You have to seal the targets.
About the allied shinobi forces. But while we're talking about Hokages and Edo Tensei, up next we have to talk about Hiruzen. And specifically, whether or not he's a bad guy. See, just like with the previous 2 opinions, this opinion is incredibly prevalent in the Naruto community. A lot of people write off Hiruzen as one of the worst people in the entirety of Naruto, and certainly one of the worst Hokages. And while Hiruzen did make some mistakes in his reign as Hokage, which is understandable considering it was almost 50 years ago,
literally.
The accomplishing gave to the Leaf is quite literally 1,000 times...
You're bound to make some mistakes in 50 years, like...
more instrumental. See, the reasons people cite for Hiruzen being a bad guy is because he let Danzo run wild, he let Orochimaru get away, and he didn't raise Naruto. And while technically all of these are very fair critiques, these 3 things don't even come close to stacking up against what Hiruzen accomplished.
Yeah, literally.
Before we talk about what Hiruzen accomplished for the Leaf, let's talk about these 3 things that people use against him. First of which is he let Danzo run wild, which is honestly giving Hiruzen a lot of credit. Or maybe it's just not giving Danzo enough credit. See, Danzo was a genius, and don't ever get that twisted. While the majority of people were playing checkers, Danzo was playing chess. He had his eyes on every single clan in Konoha, keeping an eye for talented children he could pull into the root. And if he found a talented child, he would pull them into the root and make them one of his elite ambu, a private army that Danzo could mobilize at whatever time and for whatever cause he wanted, all without the approval of Hiruzen. Using this power and without the approval of Hiruzen, Danzo Danzo pulled things off like killing Yaiko and destroying the earliest iteration of the Akatsuki, which led to a war between the Akatsuki and Hanzo the Salamander, leading to Hanzo the Salamander's death, a previous enemy of the Second Great Shinobi World War, tricking Itachi into committing the Uchiha Massacre, stopping the Uchiha coup and dealing with the civil unrest in Konoha, acquired the Konoha Matsukame from Shisui, and successfully leaked the information that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Fox in order to centralize everybody's hate after his birth. It's not that Hiruzen let Danzo run around. It's just Danzo kept what he was doing very secret from Hiruzen, and the system that he built with the root was very covert. See, because Danzo placed curse marks on every single member of the root that wouldn't allow them to talk about root secrets, and thus it really wasn't until the Uchiha Massacre happened and Itachi went to Hiruzen to explain to him what Danzo had forced him to do that Hiruzen began to understand the scope of what was happening with Danzo in the root, at which point he took action as far as he understood. Now, could Hiruzen have done substantially more about Danzo? Absolutely. He could have had him killed. But if you remember, Danzo was Hiruzen's childhood best friend. And as far as Hiruzen knew, Danzo was acting on what he thought was best for Konoha. But honestly, assuming the best out of people is probably Hiruzen's biggest weakness. Because for many years, Hiruzen assumed the best out of Orochimaru, until eventually Hiruzen came face to face with Orochimaru's human experimentation. And people are so baffled that Hiruzen let Orochimaru go after stumbling upon this human experimentation. But you have to remember, Hiruzen quite literally raised Orochimaru. Orochimaru was an orphan. He came to Konoha when he was about 6 years old. It was at that point that Hiruzen took him under his wing, raising him essentially as a son. And then when Orochimaru was through the ninja academy, he became a genin under Hiruzen again. So from the age of basically 6 years old, Orochimaru has quite literally been a son to Hiruzen. And I know you're saying,
well, Hiruzen should have seen the signs.
You guys know why Orochimaru started down his path to try and figure out every single jutsu? Second Great Shinobi World War is why. You see, Orochimaru used to be a squad leader, and on his squad was Tsunade's little brother. During the Second Great Shinobi World War, Tsunade's little brother dies on the front lines. Orochimaru sees this and feels responsible. So Orochimaru endeavors to become immortal so he can figure out every jutsu to prevent things like this happening again. Does he get lost somewhere down the line? Absolutely. But in this circumstance, what was Hiruzen supposed to see? If Naruto had gone down the wrong path and Jiraiya was the person to catch him, would you fault Jiraiya with letting Naruto go? Or would you insist that Jiraiya killed Naruto? Because that's essentially what people insisted for Hiruzen in this circumstance. But since we're talking about Naruto, we have to talk about the way Hiruzen raised Naruto. See, the qualm that a lot of people have with Hiruzen is that he basically just abandoned Naruto to live in a single apartment with rotting food. He didn't hang out there himself, he didn't send a jonin, and well, obviously the last thing that Minato said to Hiruzen was to keep an eye on his son. Hiruzen is not solely responsible for the bad upbringing of Naruto. Danzo leaked the information that Naruto is the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki. Jiraiya is quite literally the godfather of Naruto and should have been there, because that's the role of a godparent. If the parents die, the godparent raises you. Hiruzen was busy running the entirety of Konoha. He had also basically just watched his own son head down the wrong path, and to assume he was weary about taking in another orphan and raising him after watching Orochimaru go down the path that he did isn't insane. Not to mention he had already guided Konoha through the Second and Third Great Shinobi World Wars, had stepped down from the role of Hokage in order to give it to Minato, and had it thrust back upon him after Minato died after only serving for 3 years. I'm not gonna say there was more important things for Hiruzen to do outside of raising Naruto, because raising the child with the nine-tailed fox in his stomach to be a good kid is probably the most important thing. But to place the entirety of the blame on Hiruzen is just not the right thing to do. Could he have done better? Absolutely. Would I have been weary to raise another orphan after watching the last one I did literally become a homicidal maniac? Probably. At the end of the day, Hiruzen had a couple of mess-ups, but his time as Hokage is the period of Naruto we understand the best. And without Hiruzen being the good guy that he was, we wouldn't have seen Kakashi or Yamato pulled out of the root, since he was pretty much solely responsible for putting Kakashi and Yamato under his wing and made them into the young men that they were. Not to mention he saved the village from Kurama on the night of Naruto's birth, pushing Kurama out of Konoha with his monkey and staff, and he was basically single-handedly responsible for saving Konoha from the Konoha crush. So maybe we go a little bit easier on the old man. Another very prevalent opinion within the Naruto community are things like Madara and or Pain were right. As in, the ideology of either Madara or Pain was correct, and therefore Madara or Pain should have won. And while once again this is much more a moral gray area, and therefore you are entitled to these kinds of opinions, Madara and Pain are supposed to be physical representations of opinions that have been held by humans for thousands of years. Madara representing the argument whether it's better to be free or safe, and Nagato to represent whether or not humans can truly ever fully forgive. Now Madara to me is much more interesting of these two, because his argument really genuinely doesn't have a correct answer. If you survey 100 people whether or not they would have freedom or safety, depending on where they came from and what their life was like, they'll have different answers. That being said, the same could be said for Nagato. If you surveyed a group of people and asked them whether or not humans can ever truly forgive, depending on where these people are from and what their life was like, their opinions would be different. But the opinion that Madara represents has been talked about in literature for thousands of years. The most prominent example would be Fahrenheit 451, a book about a utopian world. But this world only ever achieved utopia by destroying all literature that would create divisive opinions, and thus safety has been achieved at the cost of freedom. This is essentially what Madara was offering up with Infinite Tsukiyomi, a peaceful and safe life at the cost of your freedom. And while I'm not saying there's a correct answer to this question, peace or freedom, what I am saying is that Madara was incorrect. Let me elaborate. Madara extolled that Infinite Tsukiyomi was the only way that humans surely would ever find peace. And the argument that free will is inherently the enemy of peace isn't a crazy one. The reason that Madara was wrong, even though his argument isn't technically incorrect, is the way he went about it. See, Madara his entire life was a warmonger, the kind of person who sowed more hatred than he did forgiveness. Madara wasn't giving the option of peace or freedom. He was taking freedom to hand peace and killing those who didn't agree. And Madara reveled in the Fourth Great Shinobi World's War. He enjoyed himself, cackled out loud when he got to fight against the likes of Might Guy. He wasn't posing an ethical choice, he was imparting his will. Now, if Madara had given some people who wanted to give up their free will for a life in Infinite Tsukiyomi the choice, I couldn't argue with that. In fact, I would say that Madara was correct. But imparting your opinion of peace on the entirety of the world through the means of a war isn't exactly peaceful. And thus, while the theories that Madara might have talked about may be considered correct, Madara himself was far from it. Nagato, on the other hand, is substantially more straightforward. Nagato figured that if the entire world knew what it felt like to lose somebody, that nobody would ever want to lose somebody again, and thus peace would be found. Ironically, this sentimentality is very observant of human nature, and at the same time, incredibly ignorant to it. This sentimentality basically states that once everybody has lost somebody, everybody will be even. But the reason that Nagato started down this path was because he lost somebody, specifically Yahiko. And while it is observant to understand that people who know what loss feels like won't want to go through it again, it completely ignores the idea of radicalization, something that Nagato himself actually represents. And that hate begets hate, and therefore loss will only beget more
Look like
loss.
Trevor
To
Ariza.
assume that the
I'm
entire
crying.
world just shake hands because everybody has lost something ignores human nature as a whole. Some people absolutely would accept their losses and lick their wounds and head back to their homes. But then there would be people like Nagato with an extreme amount of power.
Isn't Trevor Ariza like 6 foot something? And he don't have dreads?
Perpetuating the cycle that Nagato claimed to have broken. But in the end, the
Welcome
only
to the
truth
chat,
that
though.
will break this cycle is accepting each other how you are and finding love through that. But since we're talking about love, that brings us to our next opinion. That Sakura's love for Sasuke makes sense and is therefore warranted. People who believe that after all the years and the abuse Sasuke put Sakura through, that Sakura should still be in love with Sasuke, and that makes sense, are not right.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
For your relationships. See, Sakura had a crush on a boy she met in the Ninja Academy when she was 12 years old. And she had the good fortune of having that boy assigned to her team, where he proceeded to belittle, not talk to, and borderline abuse her for the next year or so. I mean, sure, he technically saved her during the Chunin exams. That's a pretty nice thing to do. I mean, he shattered a man's arms in front of her, but still, pretty nice thing to do. And then when Sasuke threw a temper tantrum about not being as strong as Naruto and went to leave the village, Sakura wanted to leave with him, so he knocked her out, which started a long habit of knocking Sakura out. At Shippuden, Sasuke quite literally was about to summon Kirin on top of Naruto and Sakura and end their entire careers. After Sasuke battled and killed Danzo, Sakura appeared, and while she was determined to kill him, she froze. So Sasuke tried to kill her. Then there was a time Sasuke used a Rinnegan Genjutsu to make Sakura think he killed her. There's a time Sasuke stabbed her with a poison kunai, and just all the emotional abuse you can fit into a nice little therapy session. Sakura had a guy like Rock Lee basically fawning over her whenever he got the opportunity. And if you don't think Rock Lee or Mike Guy are the most dateable people in the entirety of Naruto, you're tripping. The time that Sasuke leaving in the 4th Great Shinobi World War is roughly 4 years. To assume that a childhood crush would stretch for those 4 years after everything Sasuke put Sakura through is a stretch.
Yeah, that's
it's
insane.
a stretch we got because Sasuke wasn't going to end up with nobody. But since we're talking about the 4th Great Shinobi World War, the last opinion that we're going to talk about today is how people feel about the end of it. The end of the 4th Great Shinobi World War, that is. See, the ending of the 4th Great Shinobi World War wasn't great.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of Naruto fans out there who will be like,
Yeah, war. Absolutely stuck it.
the biggest qualm that a lot of people have is the way Madara died. See, Madara, who had basically ascended to nigh immortal status, taking on the likes of Naruto, Sasuke in an 8 Gates guide, and still rising to the challenge, is donut holed by the person that we thought was the weakest member of the Akatsuki in order to make him the vessel for Kaguya's reincarnation. And that was annoying. I've been very outspoken about how annoying that was. However, the wrong opinion in all of this is blaming Kaguya and the existence of the Otsutsukis. See, the way that Madara died was really dumb. Personally, I think 8 Gates guy should have either killed or permanently crippled Madara. And then Black Zetsu should have gone to his dying or already dead corpse and then made that corpse the vessel for Kaguya's reincarnation. But to blame Kaguya and the Otsutsukis for the war arc being the mess that it is a bit of a stretch. Because the Otsutsukis had to be introduced for the timeline of Boruto.
Yeah.
By introducing the Otsutsukis, we were getting an outside world threat that would threaten the Naruto timeline for decades to come, giving Kishimoto and the rest of the writing team infinite material to build off of in the future. And while a lot of people watching this video probably don't like Boruto, and that's probably because they've only tried to watch the anime and not read the manga.
The manga's
manga itself
better.
is
Just saying, the manga's way better.
actually very good. And the existence of these celestial threats and the entire world having to come together in order to fight against these celestial threats is actually a pretty good continuation of Naruto from where it was in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. So to blame the existence of the Otsutsukis on the 4th Great Shinobi World War not sticking its landing, I at least don't think is a good opinion. However, if Naruto had hypothetically ended with Madara's death, and then a year or two later in the timeline of Boruto, we got the introduction of the Otsutsukis, I wouldn't have minded that either. But I think at some point or another, they had to be introduced. And getting to see Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi against Kaguya was genuinely a very cool fight. So while I highly disagree with how Madara came out and how Kaguya was introduced, her introduction in itself was not a bad thing. But what do you guys think? What are some opinions in the Naruto fandom that you hate? Tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please.
Yo, that was amazing. That was amazing video. It was a banger. Love Nick. I'll be back at it again with another one. Love you.